So this is the artifact that's probably going to receive the most amount of comments, questions.
Absolutely.
This is the one that a lot of people have seen across the world when it comes to the destruction of 9/11 and the first responders that all lost their lives that day.
Yeah, so this is a fire truck, although when you approach it at first, it might be hard to even tell that that's what it is. The damage that's evident on this truck here today was caused by the collapse of the North Tower. This truck was parked right beside that building that morning. But it's a fire truck that belonged to Ladder Company, 3 of the FDNY, so their banner is on the top of the ladder. And of course, in the fire department, there are ladder companies, there are engine companies. They often respond to emergencies together to help rescue people, to help put out fires. And 9/11 was mostly, going to be deemed a rescue operation. You're going to help the people out first before you start to deal with the fires in the buildings. But there were over 200 fire companies from the FDNY, the Fire Department of New York alone, that responded that morning. About 1,000 firefighters, over 2,000 police officers, and of course you had emergency medical technicians, doctors, nurses, anyone who really had the capacity to help. They came to the site on that morning. Some of them within seconds they responded. So Ladder 3, they responded from the East Village, about a 10 to 15 minute drive from the World Trade Center. And there were 11 firefighters that came that morning from Ladder 3, captained by a man named Patrick John Brown, who was belovedly known as Patty Brown to his coworkers, his friends, a very highly decorated and well-known firefighter in the department. He and his firefighters, they bring their truck down to the World Trade Center, they park it right beside the North Tower, and then they enter into that building to help people to evacuate. And we know they made it up to about the 35th floor of the North Tower. We know that because at that time, actually, when they get to that point in the building, Captain Patty Brown picks up a working office telephone and makes a phone call to a 911 dispatcher. There was a lot of difficulty communicating that morning on handheld radios simply because of the enormity of the response from all of those firefighters and those first responders that morning. And so he just decided he needed to get word out to someone about what was happening, what he was seeing. He calls 911, says that there are burned and injured people coming out of the tower, and he said that 3 truck was still heading up. And he ended his phone call actually that morning by saying thank you to the 911 dispatcher who had answered that call. Unfortunately, we do know that all 11 firefighters from Ladder 3 were killed when the North Tower collapsed. We're not exactly sure how much further up in the building they made it, but it's really because of the efforts of not just those 11 firefighters, but again, the countless other first responders who were here helping that morning that thousands of lives were saved.
Thousands and thousands. The comments that are coming right now, there's just so many people, the outpouring of support, just saying how true heroes they were, and it's a lot of hearts and prayers and RIP, and again, this is probably one of the most iconic pieces of I guess we'll call it a museum piece that you have here. Artifact, right? Yeah. So we're now up to 3,600 people in this live.
That's really exciting. Again, for the launch of our TikTok page, but of course in coordination with you here and getting people to see the museum in a new way.
Oh, they want to see the front of the front again.
Oh yeah, sure. Actually, if you want to come around this side, just get a different view. It's a little bit darker over here. I don't know if your camera will pick it up, but there is a small artifact on this side too, which is actually Patty Brown's helmet. So he wasn't wearing this helmet when he responded that morning. He had this in the trunk of his car because he was going to have it repaired and relined. You can see very clearly it says Captain. This stood in for him during his memorial service and was donated by his family.
Okay, so you said before, if you look at it from the front, you can't even tell it's really a fire truck, which is, you're 100% correct about that.
Yeah, some people, when they first approach it, they're not sure if this is the front or this is the back, but this is what would have been the front cab. So where, the driver would have been seated, firefighters driving down on the rig to an emergency.
I think it just shows the true power and the force of when the towers came down.
Yeah.
And it just obliterated everything in its path.
Yeah. Yeah, and when the towers collapsed, again, you're thinking of two 110-story buildings coming down. There was 1.8 million tons of debris that would have just been filling this space that we're